So today we've got two different traditional recurves, or hunting recurves we're going to be having a look at. So we've got the Junxing F166 Recurve bow. This is a barebow recurve that comes in around the $300 price point. And we also have the popular Samick Sage recurve coming around the $250 price point. So when we compare these two bows, obviously you can see there's quite a bit of difference in the build. The Sage is very popular for us just because people like that kind of wood grain finish of the bow, whereas the Junxing's more kind of a modern look, I suppose. Both of them, the finish is pretty good. You can see on the Junxing they've actually got a kind of camo film over the limbs. If we look at that really closely, you will find little spots where you can see the paint hasn't set 100%. There are little kind of white specks over the limbs. Same with the Sage. I mean, if you look at the wood on this bow, you'll find little points where it just isn't quite perfectly sanded or hasn't quite finished properly, which is kind of what you expect when you're paying for a $250 bow or a $300 bow versus something like a Hoyt Satori or a Wind Buffalo around that $1,000, $1,200 mark, where they're having that really high level of quality control. So that's one of the things you'd be missing out on going to one of the entry-level bows versus to one of the Hoyt Wind flagship recurves. So the first thing we'll have a look at is the Junxing. So this is the, they call this like desert, the color on the riser here, and this comes standard with your camo limbs. I believe you can get this as light as 25 or 30 pounds, up to around the 50, 55 pound mark. In the kit, it'll come with your riser, limbs, string, this little screw-on arrow rest, and you also get a strike plate. It will go into the bow if you're wanting to shoot with feathers off the shelf, rather than damaging the actual riser itself, so it kind of gives you a bit of protection. You can still fit a sight to the bow, so it's got two little holes in the riser here as well. What you'll find, and this is the same with the Sage, is the actual sight window. So from the shelf here up to the top of the riser, that's really small because it's such a small riser. So it's not designed to be shot with a sight, although you can put one on. So some people, if you're shooting a longer draw, especially if you're anchoring under your chin rather than on your face, you're going to find you're going to run out of sight at the shorter distances because your sight's going to be sitting somewhere up here and it's probably going to be obscured by the riser itself. Same thing with the Sage. So these both can fit a sight to the bow, but you're going to struggle at longer draw lengths to actually be able to see that. So this Junxing's got the 40-pound limbs on it. We're going to be shooting a power flight that's 460 grain arrow. We'll just shoot it through the chrono and see what kind of speeds we can get. Alright, 225 seems pretty fast. We might shoot a couple more. Yeah. The lighting in here isn't great. That seems closer. Alright, so the readings I'm going to trust there because the lighting here is not super great. It's got 181 and 187. So let's say the Junxing at 40 pounds is shooting around the 185 kind of mark. So I'm going to grab those and then we'll pick up the Sage and shoot a few and compare the speeds. So I've got the Samick Sage here in 40 pounds, exactly the same arrow as we're using on the Junxing recurve. And we're just going to shoot it through the chrono and see what kind of speeds we'll end up with. 163 is our first reading, so a little bit slower, about 20 foot per second slower than the Junxing. $164, so we seem to be sitting right around that 163, 165 foot per second mark. Yeah, they're all coming in pretty much around the 163, 165 mark. Lighting in here isn't great, so we're kind of throwing out every second reading or so we get, but the average is about 20 seconds slower than the Junxing Recurve, which you'd probably expect given the difference in materials, the Samick being a wood bow, and then the Junxing being more that kind of metal kind of bow. So the first thing I really like about the Junxing is the grip. So the grip feels, to me, coming from a recurve target background, a lot more comfortable. So it's a lot slimmer, and generally with a grip, the slimmer you can get it while still retaining comfort makes it a lot easier to kind of avoid torque in your grip. So this grip here feels very similar to the target grips I shot on a recurve. Hand fits in nicely. It's not rubberized, but it's not that kind of smooth plastic coating, so you do have a little bit of grip on your hand. It doesn't slide around as much. And then on your Sage, you've got the inbuilt wood grip, which is still, it's not bad, but it is quite chunky. Not as chunky as some of your longbow grips, like on like your Cartel Epic longbows and stuff like that, the International longbows. It does still feel like a comfortable recurve grip, but it is a lot chunkier than the Junxing. And being that kind of polished wood, my hand slips quite freely in the grip, which some people like. I mean, on my target bows, I put grip tape on the grip because I don't like to feel it slip around. So if you were shooting this outside in the rain or something like that, you might find that there is a bit of play in your hand with the grip. The grip on the Junxing is actually attached by 2 screws either side of the riser itself. So you could possibly interchange that. The fitting is probably universal, but the length of the grip, it looks a bit shorter than say some of your Hoyt or Win risers. So you'd want to look for a grip that is short enough to actually fit flush with the riser. So we're just going to fire a few arrows out of this and just compare the feel and the stack versus a Sage. So I'm a 30-inch draw, so I'm kind of not pushing the bows to the limits as much as some of the 32-inch draw, but we're still starting to see that kind of initial stage of the stack. It's not bad. Yeah, I've certainly drawn bows back to a lot worse. You can definitely feel the weight, but it's not crippling. I can feel kind of as I get past 29 inches, it does certainly start to ramp up, but it's not something where it's overly noticeable, especially if this is your first bow. It's probably not something you need to pick up on, so it does actually feel all right. Yeah, it's honestly not bad as far as the stack goes. I am feeling a little bit of shock back through the riser, just being it doesn't have any kind of stabilization or anything on the bow. So with the Junxing, I'd probably suggest, even if you're going to shoot a bare bow, some kind of small damper on the bow, or limb savers or string whiskers. Obviously, depending on the discipline of archery you're shooting, like if it's world archery, you can't do that. But if you're just going to be shooting recreationally or hunting, a couple of string whiskers, some limb savers, maybe a short damper would make a bit of a difference as well. Compare that to the Sage. Yeah, it definitely stacks more. Probably when I hit about 28, I feel like it's a little bit shorter. Yeah, I can definitely feel that stack more on the Sage. Not feeling the same level of vibration. The Junxing's definitely got more vibration than the Sage. I don't know whether that's due to the kind of bigger, chunkier riser and limbs, like it disperses it a bit better. But you definitely feel more coming back through your hand on the Junxing than you would with the Sage. Not as quiet though, it's a lot snappier, which again is probably just the wood limbs, wood riser. Yeah, I mean it's not the end of the world as far as noise and vibration goes on both of these bows. Being entry-level budget bows, it's nothing that if this is your first bow you pick it up and go, oh yeah, there's lots of vibration or there's lots of stack. It's probably something you wouldn't notice. Again, I'm comparing this with having shot the high-end kind of target recurve bows, which are, a set of limbs would be 4 or 5 times the price of this whole bow. So that's kind of the difference there. But as a starting bow, you're probably really not going to notice much of a difference. We might just scale these and see what they're drawing in at. I'll just get a rough draw length. So that's saying 46.2. If you're going to do this properly, you should probably put a clicker on there to make sure you get the same length. Just get a ballpark. And then the Junxing is 47.3. So there's not a massive difference. Considering the reading we got before of 20 foot per second off the chrono, 1 pound difference is not going to give you that much. So that's coming down to the actual build of the bows. So probably to summarize, depending on what you're looking at doing with the bow, if you're wanting to get into target recurve, there's other options out there like the Galaxy Crescent, the Galaxy Torch, where they've got that larger sight window. These will work with the sight, but I think you're going to be limited very quickly, especially if you're shooting a lot of short range, 18 meters, 30 meters, that kind of stuff. So you really want to look for something with a larger sight window if you're going to go out and do that target recurve stuff. If you're looking for a traditional bow, most people that come in and you ask them, do you want to shoot target or do you want to hunt? They'll most of the time say, I want to shoot target, but I might hunt later on. Lots of them don't, but they don't want to go and get a bright red recurve target bow that's 70 inches long because you can't take that into the bush. Obviously something like one of these is designed to be shorter and more compact, so you can kind of maneuver it around. But again, it might limit you later on if you want to put a sight on the bow. As far as choosing out of the two, I mean, there's $50 difference between these bows, so there's not really a whole lot in it. A lot of people will choose the Sage purely because it looks cool with that kind of wood finish. But as far as long-term, kind of getting the best value for your money, the benefit with the Junxing is because it does have international fitting limbs, so the way these click into the pocket is you can put whatever limb you like in there. So down the track, if you want to go up to a heavier limb or lighter limb or a better limb, you can stick a $1,200 set of target limbs in this bow if you really want to. So it gives you more options. With the Sage, you're kind of limited to the Sage limbs or other limbs from other manufacturers that fit into that riser. I mean, they're still pretty cheap. I think a set of Sage limbs is around the $150 mark. So it's not super expensive to go up in limbs. With the Junxing bow, you can get a bit more life out of the actual draw weight as far as if you get one and then wind the limb bolts out 2 or 3 turns and run it at 3 or 4 pounds lighter than what the factory setting is. And then as you shoot and as you improve, you can kind of wind it in to make it heavier rather than having to go out straight away and buy another set of limbs. So you do get a little bit more life out of it that way, but again, we're only talking a few pounds difference. Whereas on the Sage, you're saving $50, so if you buy another set of limbs, you've kind of got $50 in your pocket already, difference between the two. So they're both going to be really good starter bows. They pretty much come with everything you need to get started as far as your bare bow. I would recommend, if you are wanting to quieten down a little bit, to look at something like the limb savers, the broadband ones that stick on the back of your limbs, string whiskers or some kind of short stabilizer as well, because that will make a big difference too. But they're both very affordable, very good starter recurves in that kind of range. Very similar, and I think ultimately when it comes down to getting your first bow, a lot of people go on looks. So it probably depends whether you like this in the desert finish with the camo limbs. It also comes in a black finish with black limbs, or you like the Sage in that kind of wood grain finish as well. Both of these bows are available at elizaarchery.com.